If you'd like to start investing in real estate, but you have no idea where or how to start, then this is the channel for you. I've created this series of videos to walk you through my business systems that I've created for my real estate business. Each one of these systems is a key element that helps me stay organized and focused as I scale up my business. They help me avoid making mistakes by doing the same things or the same processes over and over again. These systems are available at compulsiveinvestor.com. This is my asset purchase SOP, and this is all the steps that it takes to purchase a property in Akron, Ohio. If any of these steps are different in your city or your municipality that you're investing in, please put those in the comments down below. And these steps are going to vary depending on your market that you're in and also depending on how you have your business structure set up. And I'll explain that in a little bit. So the first thing I do is I print out this asset purchase SOP. I write in the unit the name of the address here that I'm going to put an offer in on, and I write the date that I start this offer. And then each of these areas I highlight as I go through them. And that way, if I end up purchasing this property, I'll be able to scan this SOP into my folder under that property. So the first thing I'll do is I'll write the offer in the name of the entity or person that's buying that property. If you're purchasing in your own personal name, which I don't recommend, but you may have to depending on how you're being financed, then you're going to write the offer in your own name. The way I have my structure set up is I have a Wyoming LLC that's my holding company. And the reason why I use a holding company is it's a subject for a whole nother video, but it's all about asset protection, and that's why I have my structure set up this way. If you'd like to learn more about that, take a look at this guy's channel here. This guy's a lawyer, and he explains why anonymity is so important with real estate, especially as you buy more and more properties. So I'm not going to get into that too much really in this video. So I have my holding company set up in Wyoming. That holding company owns the LLCs that own my properties. So if you look at the owner of my properties, if you look them up on the county site, they'll be owned by the LLC. Then that LLC, if you look that up on the state site, that LLC is owned by my holding company. So it's like a subsidiary of that holding company. Each one of them is a subsidiary of my holding company. So if you have your properties owned directly under an LLC that you own, then you're going to write the offer and you're going to sign as member of that My Rentals LLC. But if you have a holding company, you are not the owner of My Rentals LLC. Your holding company is. So you have to actually elect yourself as president and sign John Smith, president of My Rentals LLC. When it's time for closing, I do my own property info search. And the reason that I do this is because title companies can make mistakes. You might think that everything's being done perfectly, but it doesn't always get done perfectly. And a case example was one of my properties was put into my company's name, and it was listed as a street, I think it was, instead of an address or instead of an avenue. And because of that, when I went to get the property refinanced, my lender made me go in and change that to the proper address. So, and that just opened up a can of worms. Took a while to get it all straightened out, and some extra documents that had to be filled out. So this is just a step I do for my own personal reasons, so that doesn't happen again. I make sure everything in that property search is correct according to how they fill out how they do the title work. Then I also confirm that there's no personal information in that title work. Sometimes your name can get slipped in there, and you just don't want that if you want to remain anonymous. You're going to get an email eventually from your title company, and you want to verify that information, because once you send that money or wire that money, it's gone. So you want to make sure that you verify all this information correctly, and that you're working from the correct email. You can even call the title company and request confirmation that is their email. I copy my asset folder, my new asset folder, to my properties folder. If you'd like to see how I have my structure set up on my computer, take a look at this video here. But inside this new folder, this contains everything that I need in order to operate that rental property. Everything from advertising it to keeping track of my tenants. And all of these, everything in this folder is also available at compulsiveinvestor.com. So after I copy that folder, I name it by the address of the property. Then I highlight that that's been completed. And inside that folder, there's an Excel sheet called Asset Purchase Form. And this is a form that I created that has all of the important information for all my properties in one area, stuff that I need to access very quickly if something's going on. So it's got all account numbers and stuff in it. So I created this specifically so that I could gain quick access to it rather than having to hunt through all of my folders for something. Next comes time to order landlord locks. I use a company called landlordlocks.com, and I created a demo video here, or a review of those locks. I can't say enough good about these locks. They really help you to keep organized, especially if you're going to plan on purchasing multiple properties. You really need some kind of system to keep your locks organized so that you don't end up with a bunch of keys like I did at first until I initiated this system. So I highly recommend check out that video right there. These are the part numbers that I have for myself, so I know which parts to order from Landlord Locks. And this is just a sheet that has all the information on it, or all the items that I use for all of my rehabs, just so that I can keep track of all that. I order a dummy handle for the entryway, and one of the Texas bolts is what I use for the lock, as well as the cylinder that inserts into that lock. I order one set for each door, and when those arrive, I confirm to make sure they all work correctly. And then each one of those cylinders are going to have an EM number on it. And this is an Excel sheet that I created to keep track of all of those numbers and whatever addresses they go to. And then I put my keys for those cylinders in my locked up case that I keep in my fire safe. Now it's time to call the utilities. In Akron, the water is updated automatically as soon as the deed's put in your name and the name of your business. If it's not on, or if it's turned off for whatever reason, for winter, been weatherized or whatever, then you have to email this address here. I called Dominion and First Energy to get those utilities put on. And this temporary utility sheet is a document that I have to keep track of all of the utilities that I have on at any given time. It's real easy to get confused when you have vacancies. At times you might have 2 or 3 vacancies and you're trying to rehab another property or something. It can get confusing, and I don't want to forget to keep a utility going. So I have this sheet made up to help me as a reminder. After you close on your property, the first thing I do is a rehab inspection, and I use this sheet to write down everything that needs to be done in that property. If I'm doing it myself, I mark that down, or if I'm having a contractor or a handyman come over to do something, I list all that stuff out in detail. I install the new locks, And if I have contractors coming, I have a special contractor lock. Again, if you watch this video here that I had up earlier, I explain how the contractor lock works, and it's a really nice system. So I'll put that cylinder in there if a contractor is coming to do work. I'll call the contractors. I'll take a look at the furnace and see if it needs to be inspected. This kind of depends on how old it is. If it needs to be serviced, I've got a guy that comes out and does that. If it needs replaced, well, then you're going to come into more of an expense. But a lot of times you can get those older furnaces working for a few $100. I download all of my pictures that I took of the property before I purchased it and during my rehab. I take them off of my phone and put them in the property folder. That way they don't clutter my phone up. I save them into that purchase folder. Sometime during that rehab, I do a basement walkthrough just so that I can have something for future reference to know where items are at. Where's the fuse box at? Where's the water shut off? Where's the gas shut off? Just in case I have a tenant call me up in an emergency or whatever, and I need to get to a quick access where everything is at in that property. I can use the video to do that, to tell them how to turn something off. And I have a instruction sheet here that I use for creating my walkthroughs for advertising a property. If you'd like to see a sample of one of those, I'll put one right here. When the title papers come in the mail, you're going to get this envelope of about 5,000 sheets of paper. It seems like you don't need to keep all those. I scan them all and then I shred the rest. The only things that I keep are the deed, the title and deed, and that's just a couple sheets of paper, 2 or 3 sheets of paper. I clip those and store those in my firebox. Everything else gets shredded. And then I use Quicken business and rental property management software. I think it's like $100 and something a year or something like that. And it keeps track of all of my rental properties as well as my side hustles. I add these assets as I purchase a property. I add that into Quicken. That way I can keep track of the values and repairs, rents, everything to do with that property. Then I check to make sure that that asset purchase form is complete. That's this Excel sheet up here that's inside my new asset folder. I make sure that all the information is in that Excel sheet, and I highlight it as I go through it. And then finally, I take outside pictures of the property for my lender, because they're going to want to see those when I put it in the application. Once all this is highlighted, I scan this and put it in my SOP folder inside the folder structure for this new property that I just purchased. By the way, if you're new here, I've created all of these tools and these systems to help others become successful or to be successful real estate investors. And in the next several weeks, I'm going to be demoing all of my business systems. All of these systems and tools are for sale at compulsiveinvestor.com. Congratulations, you now are the owner of a rental property. You've rehabbed it, and now it's time to start looking for a tenant. Well, how do you advertise this property? That is the subject of my next video. As soon as it's available, it will be right there. And this video walks through all the steps that it takes to advertise a rental property. If you'd like to continue to see these videos, please hit that like button. This really helps my video to get out to several people. And please hit the subscribe button. This helps as well.